Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a great day today, and in this video we're going to be doing a review for The Incredible Hulk, which came out in 2008. This was the second film in the MCU which came out shortly after Iron Man, and a lot has changed in the MCU's history since then. So the tone back then was a little bit different, they did things a little bit differently, and a lot of people kind of forget about this movie, mainly because the actor that played him, Edward Norton, did not return and was actually replaced with Mark Ruffalo in the Avengers and so on. But to kind of hop right into the review for this movie, I think Edward Norton was actually a really good Bruce Banner and Hulk. And actually, if you didn't know, Lou Ferrigno, who played the Incredible Hulk back in the day, actually provided some of like the voice stuff for Hulk when he was transformed. And I think he did it in a few of the later MCU movies, just not anything too recently. So that is pretty cool. But really, as a character, I think Bruce Banner absolutely works. It does a good job of making you care for him. It's not the craziest story ever where the world's ending. It's more of a chase where the government is hunting him down, which makes it pretty exciting. I think that's really good, but it's not as good as it could have been. I think some of the execution wasn't quite there. And the movie also just starts off with kind of the opening scene of him with the gamma radiation in the opening credits. And that was partly because they had already adapted kind of his origin into different live action things. So they kind of just assumed most people already knew it and just wanted to put it at the beginning real quick and then hop right into him on the run as he goes through different countries. And as I said, he's a good character. All the other characters work pretty well, I would say, for the most part. It's one of those movies where it does a pretty good job of understanding all the different personalities of these characters, so they just stand out and they're pretty memorable because of how different they are from one another. And there is a little bit of romance in there, which is done okay, I guess. It can be a little awkward, but both of our characters here are kind of just nerds, so it's kind of what you would expect. But overall, the acting is pretty good, and the action throughout the movie, the destruction, feels about right for a Hulk movie. I don't think it really ever goes too crazy on the emotion, but most of the elements kind of play out nicely. And for this being very science fiction-y, I don't think there are really many plot holes or confusing things. There might be a couple small things in there, but for the most part, it works pretty good. Because this early on in the MCU, a few of the films kind of had plot holes. And for the most part, I don't really think this one did, unless I'm forgetting something. And the CGI was pretty good, especially just for 2008. Back then, the standards weren't as high, and I feel like CGI might have peaked just around that area because it was when it started getting good enough, whereas just very realistic, but it wasn't used enough that people just got lazy with using it. In the first scene where he transforms into the Hulk on screen is just done really well because he's kind of in the dark and it slowly like reveals who he is. It's kind of how in Batman Begins, Batman slowly appears to the criminals and you kind of see them getting taken out by him. But then he doesn't fully appear until there's just really good shot. There also is a little bit of humor in here that works pretty good. I feel like as the MCU kept getting along, it just went for a ton of weak jokes as it leaned more into comedy. But back in these days, it just knew when the right moment for a joke was. And here it's very serious for the most part, but there are parts where it wants to be a little bit lighthearted and it knows how to do it pretty well. Now, I do think there are some plot points that might be a little bit rushed. Mainly the ending was kind of rushed with Abomination, kind of just to have a final battle. They did a decent job of setting it up, but they could have kind of done better. And then the character Samuel Stearns, played by Tim Blake Nelson, kind of played a big role into the story. But they have this one scene at the end where he's exposed to some of the chemicals, radiation, whatever you call it, that kind of messes with his head. And I do not like when movies do that, especially universes, and usually it's in post-credit scene. They do something that they don't go back to because they're setting something up that never happens. However, he's actually set to appear in Captain America: The Brave New World as the leader of something. So maybe he will be fully transformed by then. So I guess they did set something up that happened after all. It just took over 15 years. And Thunderbolt will also return in that movie, but played by Harrison Ford because the actor that played him in this has already passed away. And I would say he was a pretty cool character. It was nice what we got to see of him. And of course, right before the movie ends, there's a scene with Tony Stark, kind of setting up the Avengers movie. It is cool to see stuff like that. So overall, this isn't terrible. It's not one of the best. Definitely not even the best superhero movie from that year. but I think it's decent and there's some stuff to appreciate in it. And if you haven't seen it but you're a fan of Marvel, I suggest you check it out. If you give it a try, you might like it. So overall, on the quality scale of 0 to 100, we'll give it a 74%. Let me know what you think about it in the comments section down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If there's a movie you would like me to review, you can also let me know in the comments section below, and I will see you guys in the next one.